Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Dayal, and this is From a Place of Self. I'm extremely excited and grateful to be with my dear friend Priya, who's joining us all the way from the UK. And if you're listening to this episode right now, you won't notice that we both got the same wardrobe memo. So you might want to go to the YouTube channel and see that we both got the white upper top, and I feel like we are in sync with uniform. It's beautiful. You look great. You're so wonderful to be here. And I just wanted to say hi and have you say hi to our audience and let you be here.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you. And I'm so happy to share this conversation with everyone and get some insight into my life and see if people can connect.
Yeah, that's the big reason why we're here. I recognize that so many of us are sharing stories that would resonate with others if we felt at liberty or safe to be able to be a little bit more human. And the experience of life that I've noticed for myself and other people that I work with, our friends or community, is it's very often less about what we're going through and more about the feeling of being alone in it, or the feeling of being wrong for being in our situation or thinking that it should be different. And when we create space for vulnerability and authenticity and sharing, not only do we learn a lot from other people and what they've gleaned along the way, we also feel more connected and a little less alone. And you're somebody that I've always noticed as a person that holds a lot of courage, who holds a lot of wisdom in your life, and a lot of humanity, if I could say it in that way, of being real, being authentic. And also, you're a mother of two young kids, and that demonstrates a huge heart of yours, very caring person. So I'm grateful just to bring all of that in here and spend time with you and share that with the people that may be listening. And the place that I thought we would start in this podcast being called From a Place of Self, the overarching question we always ask is, what does it mean to be living from an authentic place of self? And for you specifically, for those that don't know, you live in the UK, you're a single mom, you've been divorced, you've had to reinvent yourself in your career, in your identity, in a variety of different ways. And I would like for you to just share a little bit about that journey for you of going through those experiences and reinventing yourself in a way where you've made your journey towards your authentic self, a sense of self. And those are big questions, but I kind of throw them out there and see where we start to roll. So over to you, Priya.
Thank you so much. Wow, it has been such a journey, but what an incredible one. And
Mm.
as I went through it, it probably didn't feel incredible to me at the time. But now looking back and where I am and what I've achieved, even in a short period of time, I'm very grateful for what's happened because, as you said, I was able to reinvent myself. And what I've learned about authenticity is I was able to become more authentic with myself the more lost I was. And that's a very scary feeling and it's a very scary place to be. But when you hit rock bottom, you can only build up. There's nowhere else to go from that. And I know people have heard that before, but when I was faced with an absolute brick wall, the lowest of the lowest I've ever felt in my whole life, I actually said to myself, you're either going to reinvent yourself, rebuild yourself, and help others. There was always this thing. I had this voice in me. You are going to help others from this experience. I don't know. I didn't know how. I didn't know where, in what means, or what capacity, but I just knew, Priya, this is your opportunity to do it. Because before my life changed, I used to listen to Tony Robbins. I've had great mentors around me. We've all been very encouraging about self-development and growth. And you can hear all these things and they sound great when you're listening to it, but it's very passive. And we've got into a culture now where everyone's listening to podcasts and people are listening even today, but it's passive. We're doing lots of things as we're listening. But when are we going to take action? When are we going to actually practice what we've learned? And when my life changed, I had the opportunity to do that. So that's why I'm really, really grateful for the darker times in my life. But I'm more than happy to for you to ask any questions on that because I know there will
Yeah,
be.
A couple of things you said that was powerful, and I wanted to reiterate that back because I want to remember it for myself. The first thing I heard you say was that sometimes the more lost we feel is that's the doorway towards our authentic sense of self.
Yeah.
Because, and adding my own interpretation here, that it exposes some of the limitations of the identities that we had been leaning on previously in our life, and we see the frailties of what we thought was our fortress, and it
Mm,
forces us to look for something more substantial, more deeper, more meaning. And you talked about hitting a rock bottom, and that we hear about these types of things and it can seem meaningful, but it's not till you really go through it that it actually becomes meaningful for you. And Steve Jobs mentioned in a 2005 Stanford address that we can never connect the dots looking ahead in our life. It's usually we don't connect them till we're looking back.
mm.
Hindsight's always 2020. So what could you say to somebody that, because the lie or the narrative of depression or anxiety or suicidal ideations or just whatever darkness we get into is that this is when it's going to last forever, and hope may exist for other people but not for me. We just get so lost and stuck. And how do you, what was it like for you in that space? I mean, you're looking back and seeing it, but how did you identify in that space of, first of all, can you unpack a little bit more what that was like for you? And then what was it that gave you strength or hope as you were moving through it?
Yeah, a few things. There were times where I felt very anxious and overly, I wouldn't say depressed. It's never been in my nature to fall into that, but it was more a heaviness, I would say.
Mm.
And sometimes it felt so heavy and overwhelming where you open your eyes. And I used to say to myself, Priya, how am I going to get through today? How am I going to face everything? And that was quite challenging. My therapist said something really useful for me. He said, when soldiers from the army used to come back into normality and normal life, they used to find it really hard, obviously with PTSD and complex issues that they had from what they've seen. And I felt something quite similar. And we were going through different things in my therapy. And he said, when you're feeling so overwhelmed, focus on the thing right in front of you. So, for example, if I'm washing the dishes, he would say, just focus on that one dish at a time, the soap going round, rinse it off. And it would really help my mind in those times where I was feeling that overwhelmed. What is the task in hand? Is it, okay, right now I need to bathe my children, I need to read them a book before bed, cuddle them, and that's all I'm going to focus on right now. I'm not going to focus on the paperwork and the litigation and everything that I need to deal with after. I'm just going to focus on the moment in hand right now. Then
Yeah.
I would then move on. That would give me a breather in those times. Obviously, how I'd get through it, the strength is when we are in a really dark time, we can see darkness all around us. And one of my mentors said to me, okay, Priya, look for something blue in the room. Look for blue in the room. And I looked around and all of a sudden saw 20 things that were blue in the room because my attention went to it. So he said to me, whatever you focus your attention on, whether it's positive or negative, that's what's really coming to light for you in your mind. And I had to focus on the gratitude. And that's really hard to say in a very overwhelming time. But when we focus on micro gratitude, even if you start off, I'm breathing today, I've got my children around me, they're safe and they're happy right now. That's it. We start with that. Then I would say, I've got really loving parents, I've got really loving family, I've got these opportunities around me, I've got a roof over my head, I've got food on the table. And I just take it that slow. And then that micro gratitude would help me be very grateful for what I had right in front of me, and it would change my mindset from the darkness. It would shine a light on it.
Yeah. I'm curious if you could share about when you were talking about you had two young kids, you still have two young kids, and very often my mom was a single mom growing up. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old. My sister was 6. So I was raised by a single mother myself. And she ran a daycare center from our home our whole life growing up. That's how she made an income and provided for us. So there, she was taking care of us, and she was taking care of a dozen kids from the neighborhood.
Wow.
And I could see the way that that just weared on her naturally. At the time, I didn't notice it as much because you're just a kid and you're going through life, and that's what's normal. Now being an adult in my own life, obviously I'm not a single mother, but being an adult where you have responsibilities of caring for other people. I am married, and my nature, I've lived a very service oriented life and trying to care for other people in different contexts. We have this sort of compassion fatigue and compassion burnout as caretakers, where we're worrying about other people so much
Yeah.
that there's very little time for ourselves, because our caretaker role parts get activated, or we feel like if we don't make ourselves needed in some way, then we're not going to have value, because that's what we need to do in order to make ourselves worthy in the world in some place. And so I'm curious, what was the experience like for you and yourself to find time for yourself to reconnect to you in the space of having to take care of so many other pressures for other people, including your kids?
Yeah, it's a little complex one, but the main motivation behind it is I see these little boys in front of me. I have two beautiful boys, and when I see their little faces, I told myself they're going to be men one day. And one huge passion of mine, and I'm sure we'll come on to it with my career, is women's empowerment. And I want them to grow up knowing what a strong woman is and a healthy woman. And I'm not talking
Yeah,
about toxic femininity. I'm talking about a strong woman who knows her worth, who is dealing with traumas and healing and is strong mentally, physically. And I want them to see that and know what it's like to take care of a woman as well. It's a beautiful relationship we've got where I'm showing them what empathy is and what kindness is and care is. And that starts with self. That starts with me looking after myself, and they're seeing,
yeah,
oh, actually, there is value in that self-care, that self-love, and it starts at
yeah,
home. I am their first teacher, and I made a promise to myself because previously, when I had my first child, I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Now, when you're under a lot of stress, your body can almost attack itself. So you can get these immune diseases, and I had eczema, I had colitis, and I was in and out of hospital. And I made a promise because I knew I was going through something stressful when you go through a separation, that my body's going to react now. So it needs some love, it needs some care, it needs some grace. So I really fixed up my diet. I made sure that I invested in myself. I got a personal trainer. I've been really strict on always having a personal trainer. So I've got someone to check in on me because it works well for me. And I showed my boys care by looking after myself. And now they love working out with me. They encourage me at home. They, even when I pick up my children when they're tired, they say, "Wow, mommy, you're so strong, and we know why you go to the gym." And I think it's really sweet when they say things like that.
yeah. A friend of mine who's a mother, she lives in Florida, and I was listening to her speak. She was giving a class or something. I was listening to a snippet of she runs a community platform and was addressing her community. And she was talking about a similar principle about care. And she has two young kids. And her oldest son, who's a toddler, was saying, "Mommy, mommy, come play with me, come play with me." And she was busy. She had some things going on, and she had been playing with him all day. And she said, told her son, "I can't play with you right now." She said, "It's not my job to play with you all day long." And when she said that, I was like, that's the most horrible thing in the world you can say to a kid. Like, I don't agree with any of that. But then she said that he kind of got it. And then he went and played with his sister, because she said, "You can play with your sister, you can play outside, you can play with your toys." Doesn't mean there's no relationship with us, but it does set the expectation, the reality that yes, we have loved ones and caretakers in our life. And also, we have to make sure that we are coming from a place of groundedness and fullness and connectedness, so that we can actually give our real selves to other people when we're there. one of my favorite books, and I read this a lot when I do my own monologues or sayings in this podcast. I'm reading this book by Richard Schwartz called "You Are the One You've Been Waiting For." And so
Mm,
much of it is about the expectations we place on our partners to care for the wounded parts in us, thinking
mm.
that there's some gap, there's some deficit in me, and I need somebody else to fill that rather than me being the primary caretaker in my own life. And as a parent, I'm hearing you demonstrate that that's one of the greatest gifts you can give to your kids is by demonstrating for them what it looks like to care for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel that I've had to do a lot of inner work. In the past 5 years, I have really delved deep into my own traumas and things that I needed to put to bed, things that I needed to heal from. And
Yeah,
I've really taken this very seriously because how many times have we seen, and you would have seen it in the work that you do, people are often experiencing a lot of passed down trauma from their parents. And even if they
yeah,
say, I had a beautiful childhood and everything was fine, but the burden that their parents were carrying that they didn't have time to heal or develop on and put
yeah,
to bed, they're passing it down to their children. I've really been hot on, no, I cannot do this. I need to break the cycle. And
yeah,
course my children are going to experience things, and there'll be certain things we'll have to talk about when they're older, and they might
yeah,
feel, oh mum, I wish it was this way, or why was it like that, and I'll have to explain that. But as much as I can, I'm not trying to just put plasters on my wounds. I've really tried to put things to bed so I can be the strongest version of myself. And when we come on to stereotypes of a single mum, at first, when I knew I was going to be a single mom, it was daunting because I'm leaving a community, I'm leaving this ideal picture of what you think life should be in a unit, and that's now broken. And people, especially in an Indian community as well, divorce is a stigma, being a single mom is a stigma. And I thought, no, no, that is not what how I'm going to live my life or what I'm going to live by. And
yeah.
a lot of people who meet me, they do say you're a powerhouse. And it was my birthday 2 days ago, and people
Happy
thank
birthday.
you. But people were saying the most beautiful things to me, and things that I didn't even realize that I'm
Yeah,
even giving off or emulating. And it reminded me that yes, I am a powerhouse, and yes, I'm not this broken single mom. To be a single mom, I almost don't really agree with the word single, because what does that even mean? You're a mom, you're whole, you're a person, you're incredible what you're doing. So
yeah,
I promised myself that I'm coming from a place of love, a place of strength, and I'm going to break the mold of what divorce means
yeah.
and what a single mother means.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm feeling the power coming through the house right now. So appreciate that. I You mentioned something really sweet about your boys and recognizing that they're going to grow to become men one day
Yeah.
and wanting them to also understand what it means to be a powerful woman and what it means for you to be in your own power as a female. And so the flip side of that is the idea that there are sometimes parts of us or parts of certain people that have a negative stigma in themselves. You said that are dealing with a trauma or feeling from a place of weakness or feeling from a place of disadvantage or feeling like I don't have that power within me or I do feel broken. There are parts of us sometimes that carry those beliefs. We talk about in IFS, there are different types of burdens that parts of us can carry. Sometimes they're emotions like an extreme sadness or a terror or fear or loneliness, or sometimes it's a belief like I am worthless or I am broken or I am unworthy. And some of those burdens can be personal based on my own experiences, something happened to me. And some of them you were talking about that we call them legacy burdens, which are things that just get inherited from our family.
Mhm.
And it's hard to let those things go because that sometimes could be our connection to our family. That's how we keep my lineage. It's the way it was always done. My mom was like this, or my dad was like this, or it just always was. And that's just how it's supposed to be. But it sounds like you've done a lot of work to let go of some of those burdens, to change those narratives and let go of some of those burdens and beliefs and to come more into your own self. And I'm just curious, how do those things still crop up for you today? And if so, how do you engage with those parts of you that might still crop up and carry some of those wounds or beliefs or remnants of some of those burdens?
Yeah. Insecurities and traumas and pain comes up a lot. I feel if you look around, whether it's human nature, but it's really embedded in a lot of people, even the most charismatic or strong or successful people, they go through moments of doubt. I, even now, I'm in more of a settled place. I get doubt probably on a daily basis. I'm being really honest. I might be doing something so successful and incredible in my work, and then all of a sudden I have this flying thought of, Priya, you're not enough, or you need to push harder, or this insecurity will come up, or someone will say something and it will remind me of a very weak or vulnerable place that I've been in before. And there are a few things that I do to help myself out of those. So the first thing is I acknowledge it and I listen to it. And I think, okay, where is this coming from? So I try and come to the root cause of it. Is it someone's triggered me because that's been said to me before? Is it something that I've seen a pattern of in between generations? Is it something that I've seen in my family system? And then I'll say, okay, is this my reality now? So then I have to think, is this really who I am, or is this a false narrative that has just always been there?
Yeah,
And is the record playing? No, no, you're not that person anymore. So we can stop,
yeah,
put a pause on that. I
yeah,
also find it very, very powerful. I have a good circle around me, but I also have a very a small core circle who
yeah,
are my circle of trust. And if I'm ever feeling like that, doesn't matter what time, I can pick up the phone and I can say, this is how I'm feeling. And those
mm,
are very close people around me who I love, and it's a safe space. They'll talk me through it, and they will shine a light on my strength and who I am and the reality of who Priya is. And don't get lost in your thoughts, because sometimes these thoughts can test you as well. They're not who you are. It can be quite
yeah,
a negative test. And so I surround myself with that. And the final thing is movement. If I'm feeling heavy thoughts, I know I need to move my body. And that's where I get to the gym. In the past year and a half, pad
yeah,
work and boxing has been an incredible outlet for me. It almost just shakes that negativity inside of me. But any type of movement really does make a difference on the body. And that's been powerful for my mindset.
yeah. The word that you were sharing at the beginning, or that came up for me as you were sharing, which is such a powerful access to our self energy, is curiosity, where these narratives can come up, and just learning to question what's going
Mhm.
on in our own head is such a powerful experience. Because normally we, in the therapeutic world or the coaching or self-development world, a lot of times we just kind of treat our inner world like a mess, like a, what am I thinking of? A circuit board that just needs to be rewired in some way. Turn these things off to like a circuit board, or a, in music they have a master mixing board, right? Just turn that up a little bit, turn this down a little bit. Yeah, turn that, without recognizing that these are parts of us that are carrying actual beliefs. Like the part of me really believes that, really
Mm,
believes that I'm unworthy, or believes that if I allow myself to be seen, I'm going to get hurt. And so we
mm,
play small,
mm,
because who am I to get big? And it's not that I'm trying to be my own critic just for fun. I'm actually trying to warn myself off against hurt by allowing myself to take risks, or to be seen, or to do this podcast. I'm going to be seen and heard by other people. And we live in a world that is designed for instant feedback from the peanut gallery, from anyone, and anyone can give us their feedback sometimes. So what I heard from you that I really appreciated was just a curiosity to explore those narratives and not just shut them down, but to help bring everybody on board to come more into the present, to recognize that sometimes there are parts of ourselves that are stuck in the past, help them come more into the present and recognize, because much of trauma, as we discuss, is less about what happened to me and more about the reliving of what happened to me, because I think it's still happening now. There's a part of me still stuck in that,
Yeah.
and to be bringing that more into the present. And
Yeah.
so it sounds like that's a beautiful practice that you're having of just continuously tending to your inner space and reminding parts of you that might need reminders, reaching out to friends when you need it, and also movement. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I don't think enough of us move our body enough, and we don't connect the somatic physical movements of our body to how we're able to process trauma and heal. Bessel van der Kolk, one of the great books, wrote "The Body Keeps the Score," and about how so much gets stored in our body. And so maybe you can share a little bit about how important that is for you as a woman, especially because women, more so often than men, although it can be shared, carry a lot of shame and guilt in their bodies and feeling, and just how that relationship with your own body has progressed through movement and in that way.
my my relationship with my body has been one journey, and I think this is just going to continue to develop. I had a relatively good relationship with my body up until I had kids, and I've always been quite slim, I look in shape, but I wouldn't say I was at my strongest. I took it for granted. And then when I had my babies, I had an incredible pregnancy. It was quite plain sailing, had a beautiful birth, and I am blessed in that way to have that experience. But then when I gave birth, I had a few complications with my body reacting, and I realized, oh, I need to actually really take care of my body now. It has allowed me to go this far, and this is where the care needs to come in. I had a lot of eczema and ulcerative colitis, so that's my body reacting to a lot of stress. And so when I removed myself from stressful situations and relationships, and my body started to calm down. So that helped. And then when you give birth, and I know a lot of mothers will relate to this, there's this dissociation that happens with the body. I could not look in the mirror, and it doesn't matter how much people said, "Wow, Priya, you have bounced back. You look incredible." I could not look in the mirror. I could not look at my naked body. I had stretch marks, I had loose skin. You go from carrying this beautiful life and this bump, and you know it's inside of you. And then when the baby comes out, you're looking in the mirror going, I'm not carrying anything anymore. I'm in pain. I don't know what my body has gone through. It takes a year at least to heal. What I don't know, I don't even know how to relate to my body anymore. And that's when I've got a nature in me. If I'm not happy with something, something needs to change, and I embrace change. So I thought, okay, let's start this gym process. If you're not happy with your body, let's try and get it stronger and healthier. And I first, instead of just looking at the aesthetics, I looked at, okay, let's just get strong now, because I felt quite weak. So
Yeah.
I started going to the gym. The first year and a half, I was going mechanically, and I wasn't enjoying it at all. It wasn't something that I was into. I might look like a gym goer, but I just wasn't into it. But I would
Mhm.
religiously go 2 to 3 times a week. And then it started to become my routine. After about 2 years of religiously going and not giving up, I started to see the benefit in my body, strength, and then also aesthetically. And then in my mindset, I realized then now they're interconnected. My mind and my body are connected. That if I don't go to the gym, if I don't move, if I don't work out, then I don't feel good. I don't feel mentally strong. I don't feel as though I can tackle my day. And they both do go hand in hand. And the more I have been going to the gym, and now I am a lot more in shape, I've been able to embrace my body again. I've been able to say, I'm owning it. I am a mother. I'm a strong mother. And I've given myself a lot more grace in terms of what I've been through physically with childbirth, the stretch marks, the loose skin. I've started to embrace it a lot more, but it is a journey that a lot of mums go through. And I just want to really reassure mums that it's important to look after your body. It's important to give yourself that time, that grace, that healing, and allow yourself time to heal, but give yourself time to get back to whatever it is that you want to get back to. If you want to work out, prioritize that, because only you can do that for yourself. So give that power back to yourself is all I would say.
Yeah. I'm curious if you can share more also about, because I think body image is something that's so prevalent for many of us, especially in the online world that we live in and the filtered world that we live in and the social media world that we live in. It's very rare that we're actually looking at people. We're
Yeah.
looking at an image that has been created of those people that's been airbrushed or filtered or whatever it may be. And our looks can often be a currency that's used just to get acceptance or feel good about ourselves or get other people to feel good about us. And life can be really hard where that currency is continuously being devalued through
Mm.
birth, for women, through age, through just time and entropy, etc. And many people can feel that when they look at their body, they have a negative image of whoever they are, what they're going through. So one way is, okay, I'm going to change that by making my body look a certain way so that I feel better about myself. For some people, that may not be the case. They just, their body, this is what it is. This is what my body's going to look like. And just, I have a certain physical disposition. I'm at a certain age. I don't have the drive to exercise, whatever it may be. So can you speak about a little bit of that being comfortable, having a sense of identity that's not necessarily tied to my body,
Yeah.
regardless of like being able to appreciate my body in a way that I don't have to make it look a certain way in order to feel good about myself? Because even if I don't, does that mean that I can't feel good about myself? You know what I'm saying?
I do. And it's a really powerful thing that you're talking about. As much as I like dressing up and I love makeup and dresses and all of that, all of those things, I have been on such a journey when it comes to this self-acceptance. And the more I've been able to accept myself and discover who I am. And I've almost been on a journey of forget about self-love. It's almost self-friendship of understanding who
Mm,
I am and understanding what I like and the joys and what music I like again. It sounds so simple, but the little things about myself and understanding what I find really funny and belly laughing again. And the more I've done this after my very, very dark period, I feel as though it's actually changed how I come across physically and the energy I emulate without me even realizing. And what's strange is a lot of people have commented about being attracted to me or attraction or how I come across or beauty. And a lot of it isn't aesthetic. It's the energy that I'm holding. It's because I'm not trying to be anyone anymore. I'm not trying to be a wife, a sister, a mother, whatever responsibility I have. I'm just being me. And the more I've been aligned to my own journey, there's been almost this peace within me that's come, which I've never experienced before because I've been full of insecurities.
yeah.
I've got so many insecurities and imperfections about myself, and I'm very aware of them. I I embrace them now more than ever, and I'm still on a journey with it. I'm not fully there yet. But the more I'm aligned to my authentic self and who is Priya, the more I've found that my energy is more attractive, and not only to others but to myself as well. I'm just accepting myself, and I feel that that's been quite an eye-opening journey actually, and a powerful one.
Yeah, I love what you just said. And in the IFS world, or the idea of just healing and transformation, etc., there's a strong belief and experience that the transformations we make internally in our own life end up mirroring and leading towards transformations in the external world. So the relationship that we have with ourself, when we
Mm.
repair that, I love the phrase that you use, self-friendship, because sometimes we talk about self-love and we don't really know what that means. And some people have aversions to phrases like self-care because it just thinks that just means a bubble bath, or it means, warm blanket and popcorn. And some people like that and some people don't. But the idea of self-friendship, of really building that relationship with ourself and having a dialogue with ourselves and being able to understand more deeply who we are, what our needs are in a given moment, and have that connection with ourselves,
Mm.
and being able to repair or build that relationship in a way that it just naturally overflows into a positive development in our external relationship. That when we reorganize and heal the inner world, it just allows us to move through our relationships in an external way with just so much more ease, and things just align and fall into place more.
Yeah, it does. And it is the simple things that can attract. And I'm not talking about attract in a romantic sense. It's even, I was flying to New York the other week where, where we were together, and I got to the airport in London. I was quite flustered just because I had so much to do before I got to the airport. And then when I got in, I took a deep breath and thought, right, I'm here now. I'm just going to just get on my flight and relax. And I walked in because I had had that conversation with myself. I walked into the airport with a smile, and I was in my own thoughts, and I came across a guy, and I knew I was standing in the first class area, but I didn't actually know where I was supposed to do my bag drop. So I went up to this guy and I said, "Hi, excuse me, where can I do my bag drop?" And he said, "Oh, who are you flying with? How are you flying?" And I knew obviously full well I am not flying first class. And he went, "Oh, do you know what? Don't worry. You come this way. What's your name?" And he just started having a conversation with me, and he was talking about my background. And it all started with a smile. My energy to myself was, "And relax, Priya." And I think I just gave that off. And then he passed me over to this other lady on the first class checkout. And she then checked me in, but she looked quite serious. So I thought, oh, I didn't think she was too happy about me being there. And then she stood up and she said, Just come this way with me." She's put a code into the lift, and she said, "Oh, you can skip security. I'll put you through the business and first priority security." And she was heavily pregnant, so bless her, she got off her desk, she did that for me, and then she left me with a smile. And I realized the energy that I was giving off, irrespective that I thought she looked quite serious, I still maintained my level of who I am and my authentic self, and asking her how her day was and seeing how she was related to her wanting to do something kind for me. And I think the more we have these interactions, they are so powerful, because you can make an impact on someone's life with a simple smile. And I really believe that. And your energy that you
Yeah.
carry can make such powerful connections. And in this past 5 years, I've been able to connect with people in ways that I never thought could connect. And it's wonderful to get to know people.
Yeah, that reminds me just now of a sweet story that I experienced over the holidays. I was in a bookstore a couple days before Christmas here in the US,
Yeah.
and the line was just wrapped around the inside of the building just forever. And people were buying stuff, returning stuff. The staff or the people behind the counter were overwhelmed. The line was moving slow. I finally got to the front of the line. I'm working out whatever I have to work out. I was returning something. And then somebody came up next to me, to the counter next to me, a customer came up, and she just put her stuff down and she just said, You guys are doing so great. Thank you so much. The line is moving. I know it's a lot, but we're all doing good over here. And I just wanted to thank you so much. And I just thought, wow, like who says that? Like what kind of customer comes up and wants to say that to them?
Mm.
And there was a lady behind the counter. She was one of the managers. I can see her. She like went into her lapel microphone. She made an announcement to the internal communications, like, just want to let you know someone's appreciating us up here. You guys are doing a great job. Somebody here is having a good experience. Keep up the good work. Like it meant so much to them that somebody just came. And I kind of made it a note that whenever I'm coming up to a line at a busy desk, I'm just going to let them know that you're doing a good job. You're doing better than you think you are, because they're usually just getting all the crap from everybody that's telling them how upset they are with whatever it might be. So that was a story. I really appreciated that. And the other thing that I was thinking of on a deeper level was, I spent a number of years in Al-Anon and ACOA, which are 12-step programs for people dealing with codependency and emotional sobriety. My father was an alcoholic. And so there's a lot of people who may not be dealing with addictions of substances themselves, but are dealing from the emotional fallout of being in intimate relationships with people who did suffer from addictions.
Mhm.
And the thing which kept me coming back again and again was just this idea that at the end of the day, no one else is responsible for my happiness but me.
Yes.
And in some ways, nothing in my life needs to change in order for me to be happy. They would start meetings with, if you are living in a dangerous situation, if you're not safe, do what you need to do, get out of harmful relationships, get out of harmful situations. Like, don't willfully allow yourself to be in danger with the mindset, my circumstances don't matter because I can be happy anywhere. Be safe. But aside from that, in many ways, I don't need things around me to change in order for me to be happy. And if I focus on that, then naturally I'll be empowered and inspired and have the clarity to do what needs to be done in order to be happy or make changes or do something about my body if I need to, or whatever it might be. So I was appreciating that, and I was reflecting in my own life, just that principle of taking responsibility, being the one, you are the one you've been waiting for, as Richard Schwartz mentioned it, or taking responsibility for the happy. And when you do that, whatever's meant to rearrange itself in the external world starts to kind of fall in place. And you end up moving through the elevator on the first class business line. Everyone's going to be trying that at home. It's like, didn't work for me. I got booted back into economy basic.
Yeah, it's actually happened a few times, and I feel it is the energy that you are giving off. And I'm just thinking about what you said about change.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. Sometimes change doesn't need to happen, but what I would say is if you're not happy about something in your life, whatever it might be, a job, a relationship, a dynamic, a sibling thing, career,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you have the capacity to change that. No one else
Yes.
can do it for you. I have seen with me changing so much in my life, and naturally the universe and I believe God, things have changed in my life for the better,
Yes.
and it was out of my control. But then what am I going to do about it? I,
Yes.
I like watching boxing, and if someone was to, a boxer was to fall down, their coach could be saying, get back up, stand up, you can do it. Doesn't matter how much they scream at them, it's only if they've got the will and the strength to be able to get back up on their 2 feet. And I realized that no one can carry you in life. And I realized that when I hit rock bottom, I could have, and I started off saying to myself, poor me, why is this happening to me? Why me? I had all good intentions. I have carried myself with a lot of class and dignity. Why
Yeah.
me? Why did I deserve that? And we do go through moments of that. But then when I hit that wall, I thought, well, what life do I want to create? What life do I want to live? And the only person that's going to create that is me. And the hard
Yeah.
work has got to start now. And when I tell you, a lot of people look at me and they must think, because I travel a lot and I do have beautiful blessings in my life, it didn't just come overnight. It wasn't like that transformation movie where that happy music comes on and then all of a sudden they're at that happy ending. It was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of late nights because I coach and train with my career, studying, studying, studying. And I would then have 1 or 2 hours sleep and get up for the school drop off and then be with my kids and work and have clients and really work out what it is that I want, make the changes that I want. I'd be at the gym at 6 a.m. No one's forcing me to do that. I knew what life I wanted and I knew what change I wanted to make, but I made that commitment and promise to myself because I knew no one else is going to do it for me.
Yeah, and that's the serenity prayer, if you're familiar, is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change,
Mhm.
the courage to change the things I can. Like,
Yeah.
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Mm.
So if there are things in our life that do need changing, we recognize that we can be in an empowered place. I would tell this to a lot of people I coach with and work with, that living an empowered life means I recognize that I have choices.
Yeah.
And I think that we so much about what we determine to be mental illness, anxiety, depression, or trauma, or victimhood, or wherever we live in those dark places, the rock bottoms is where we feel like we don't have choices and we limit and we disempower ourselves. And empowering ourselves means that I do have choices. And there are things beyond my limits, and learning to accept them, that if there's something I can't change, it
Mm.
means that it must not be that important for me to be happy anyways. And I have to find a way to be able to live within the realm of freedom and choice that I do have. And there's another really beautiful version of that serenity prayer that says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to
Mm.
change the one that I can, and the wisdom to know that that one is me.
Yeah.
And so that continuous bringing ourselves back to that relationship and friendship with ourselves, which is always primary. If I don't have that, then everything else is going to make sense, and it's not really going to matter, because everything else, you can have everything else falling perfectly into place, but if that relationship is askew, none of it's going to feel right.
Yeah, yeah. I love that Mel Robbins quote, let them, the let them theory. We can't
Mm,
anyone else. You can only change yourself. So let them.
yeah,
If that's who they're showing up as, if that's who they want to be towards you, let them. And I'm not saying that horrific things or abuse is to be accepted. That's not what I'm talking about. But
yeah,
it's allowing people to show up as they are, and then you have the choice to how you respond or deal with that or remove yourself. And don't try and feel as though, oh, if I do this, this person's going to love me more, or if I do this, this
yeah,
person's going to change, or the dynamic's going to change. It's down to every individual. And I think there's a
yeah,
power in that detachment as well.
yeah. A lot of what we shared so far has been about things that you've progressed or done to move forward in your life, to bring yourself out of dark places and to get to where you are today. And to, I'm curious if there are things that you've also had to let go of to make space for that. And because you're talking about let them, so let people have their opinions, let life perceive you in a certain way, or whatever it may be. And what are some things that you've had to let go of, or that you still continue to let go of?
Yeah, this feels as though it's a daily lesson for me. I feel as though when we come onto this life, there are certain themes in people's life that they have to keep learning a lesson of. So for me, it actually feels like detachment. And the minute I had to detach from my children nearly 50% of the time, that was the most painful thing for a mother or
Yeah.
any parent experience.
For custody, meaning half the time with you, half the time with your dad.
Yeah, it's the hardest pain, I would say, because these children are part of my body. They grew inside of me. And to then detach and have to hand them over is one of the most painful things. Every time I feel the heartbreak of it. I feel as though I'm letting my hearts go for however long, however period of time. And that
Yeah.
detachment has taught me. a powerful level of detachment in every situation in my life, because if I can have that detachment with my children, who are the most important thing to me, I can detach from anything. And
Mm.
relationships have taught me that when you go through a divorce, there's a lot of stigma to it. There's a lot of community. When you're part of a community, people can have opinions. They could hear stories. I've had many people talk about me because of stories they've heard, and I'm okay with it. I actually sleep well because they don't know me. They don't know what I've been through. They don't know the strength and courage it takes to live my daily life. And
Yeah,
detach from other people's opinions and noise, is there's a power and strength in that. It takes some courage and it takes some strength to actually just let go. When you do that, you are able to pull back your power. And I've experienced it time and time again. And I realized that nothing is ours in this world. Nothing. So, whatever I go into now, whether it be a relationship, whether it be my career, whether it be a holiday, whether it be just a beautiful evening, I take it as that's a beautiful moment in time. Nothing
mm,
lasts forever. It's a season. Let's enjoy it for the now and then let it go. When we have expectations of, I want this, this is going to be me, this is going to be mine, it almost comes with this uh, control. And that control can then lead to a lot of pain. So I've learned detachment in that way, if you can ask questions
yeah.
about that, if you want.
Are there conceptions or roles or identities of your own that you've had to let go of? Meaning things that you thought you needed to be, things you wanted to be that you realized couldn't be, that you had to let go of?
Yeah, this has been an incredible journey of learning about different sides of myself, because the way I was brought up was I was that girly girl, the princess, the one that loves pink. If you look back on my childhood pictures, I was little Dolly, loved everything about anything girly. And I dreamt of being a princess. And I don't mean a literal princess, but being a wife, being a mother, being everything the divine feminine would want to be. And
Mm,
I think there's so much beauty in that. I became a wife and I fully adapted to that role. And I felt as though this was my duty. This was my calling in life, to be a homemaker, a wife, and I had a career, but everything loving and all of this beautiful thing at home. Almost the path that a lot of people take. You tick the box, you get married, you have children, all of that. I
yeah,
ticked it. Life did not work out that way. I became very disempowered. I realized that that didn't give me a sense of love or nourishment or anything inside of me because of the situation that I was in. And then now I've become this career driven mother, and I'm very fierce in what I do, what I train, how I bring in money and bring a roof over my head with my two boys. And I've absolutely thrived in this environment. And when I was in therapy with my therapist, we used to laugh that this wild woman has actually been released in me. The lover and the soft,
mm,
the divine feminine has always been there, but now the balance of this wild woman has been nourished. And I take life as it comes. I love adventure now. I'm no longer living in fear, and I want to try new things. I'm a go-getter. I travel a lot, and I'm experiencing a whole new version of myself that I didn't even know could exist. So sometimes
yeah,
when people take ownership of themselves, or I've always been this way and this is who I am, I would challenge that and say, is it though? Is it? Is there another part of you, whether that be shadow work, whether that be other corners that you haven't explored yet, that
yeah,
could thrive far more than what you ever imagined of your life? So I'd say don't limit who you are.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I appreciate how you share that as it's a continuous unfolding,
Mm,
a revelation of becoming.
yeah.
And I can relate to that in my own life often, where what seems like a complete break or breakdown, the idea of breakdowns before breakthroughs,
Mm,
and the idea that sometimes everything needs to fall apart around us in order for us to discover what's really indestructible within us. That
yeah.
we need certain shells around us to break, our conceptions of us to break, to discover something that never would have come out otherwise, an aspect of ourselves. And so I want to embrace that for myself, reflect back what you're sharing here, and also echo that out to anyone listening. Because life has a way of continuously, seemingly breaking us.
Mhm.
Richard Rohr, one of my favorite authors, talks about this in his book Falling Upward, about the two halves of life that aren't separated by age or achievement, but by a certain sense of maturity that develops when we recognize the limitations that the first half of our life brings, the achievement, the identity, all the things that we think we need to do or be, the mother, the wife, the husband, the caretaker, the father, the successful business owner, whatever it might be, the influencer, the change maker. And we recognize that, oh my God, there's a whole part of me that I didn't even know was there, or that maybe was afraid to come out. And what I thought was a tragedy, and might still be through a certain lens, what I thought was the worst thing that ever happened in my life, what I thought was the most epic failure in my life, was actually just the peeling back of the wrapper to reveal something that was really waiting to get out, that I couldn't imagine my life any other way.
Mm, mm,
And I love that you shared it. I've been in that. That's in a lot of ways my own journey. I've recently taken on, I work in IFS. It's become, I've always done coaching. I've always done some sort of therapeutic work or counseling or inner work, and been on my own journey. And I've lived a certain life up until the last year and a half. And I had a physical injury. I was rollerblading downhill in Prospect Park, and I broke my arm, broke my wrist, broke my shoulder. I should have been a lot worse. I had no protective gear, and I just crashed. I just full on crashed going high speed downhill. And I'm lucky I just broke my arm, but it was severe breaks in my wrist and my shoulder. And I was in a space in my life where I knew a number of things just weren't working. And
mm,
so something had to change. And I felt like God just intervened. It's like, I'm going to give you a physical break. And at the same time, my whole career, the position at work that I had at the time was taken away. And professionally, my whole life changed, my whole identity, and everything just felt like I was left with nothing.
yeah.
And it felt like this. And I've always been a person that's believed in a higher power, that's believed that life is guiding us in some ways. And it just felt like everything was crumbling and taking away. And it this closing of a chapter was just that, the closing of a chapter, but dawning a new opening of something totally different, where I was forced to discover a new piece of myself that I never thought I would have had or had access to. And so I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think it's important for us to know that
Mm,
that we may not see the second side of the story, but something is being worked in us. And that might be a place where we can shift towards the closing here. The last thing maybe I can ask you about is just the idea of, we can call it faith or we can call it trust. We say faith, or we say trust the process, or
mm,
belief in something beyond ourselves or greater than ourselves, or a universe or an energy that's working through the world for our betterment in some ways.
mm.
And I'm curious if you can speak towards your own faith or belief that despite the darkest moments that may come upon us, that there
Mhm.
is a horizon on the other side of the seashore, and how you carry that faith and what it looks like for you to nourish that faith that
Mm.
gives you hope and belief even in the dark moments.
Yeah, faith has been a huge part of me getting through my life, and it's been a foundation of my life, and it's given me a lot of strength. I feel as though every time I I lost faith in moments, in dark moments, you do. Sometimes you can question it. Why am I going through this? This is too dark.
Yeah.
Why do I deserve this? This has come left field. This doesn't make any sense. And there'll always be some reminder that there is something higher. There's a divine purpose. There's the divine hand over me, and I'll receive a blessing, which is a reminder that you're on the right path and you are blessed and you are being looked after. And I I have a faith, and I pray a lot. I've The amount of tears my poor pillow has probably received with my nighttime prayers, but it keeps me grounded, it keeps me connected. And even though I might be receiving blessings now, I'm very aware that blessings also, they're transient and they come, and then there are hard times to learn about further blessings. And it's a whole dance and it's a journey. I feel as though holding strong and keeping faith allows you to see perspective on things personally. And I know that doesn't work for everyone, but for me, it did bring hope and it did shine light on what I was going through and piecing it all together. And I
Yeah.
realized my darkest time, the past 11 years, have been horrific. There have been really difficult times and challenging times in my life. And if I didn't go through that, and I couldn't see it while I was in it, I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do now. There is no chance. I couldn't be this version of myself. And without all of those lessons, I wouldn't be as successful. I wouldn't be this character of who I am. And so I'm really grateful. And that's hard to say, and it's hard to get to that point to say, because there are certain things that happen in your life which people don't deserve. You don't deserve that. But it's taught me a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And last major question I have for you is what are your, we call them sometimes doorways to self? You talked a
Mm.
little bit about moving your body and movement. I'm just curious if there are other ways in which you, in times of feeling disconnected from yourself, can bring yourself back to that sense of centeredness away from the narratives of the unworthiness and the burdens. And what are some of your doorways of connecting back to yourself?
There are a few that I do. So one of them is meditation. I personally do mantra meditation. When I feel times of dissociation, I take very deep breaths because I know my nervous system is it's wound
Yeah.
up. I'm in fight, flight, or freeze. So taking those deep breaths, I music is a huge part of my life. I listen to a lot of music, and I listen to a lot of healing sound waves as well. They really help calm my mind. Mantra meditation again, that really helps. Being out in nature. I do a lot in nature. I go out for walks. Whenever I'm on holiday, I am the ultimate water baby. I just want to be in the water and just
Yeah.
reconnect. Water
Yeah.
unwinds my brain and everything about me. And I remind myself one quote that I live by, and this is something that has got me through everything, is be better, not bitter. So whenever
Yeah.
you're going through a difficult time, think, how can I actually be a better person? Whether that be challenging the judgment that you have on yourself at that moment, or challenging the judgment that you have on other people. If we look at the social media world that we're in, how many times do we look at others and go, why have they got it like that? I haven't got it like that. I'm struggling. Why, how is that all fallen into place? I heard something recently that someone said that when you look at something that you want and you haven't quite got yet, take it as a sign from the universe that is showing it that is possible, is showing you that that's something that you could have. And it's a sign that magic is there, whether it be the career, the relationship, the friendships, or experiences, whatever. But is looking at things with more of a positive lens and changing the narrative from victim mentality to survivor mentality and strong and empowered mentality.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that. I have a couple more. These are quick answer questions as we just start to wrap up. One is, you said that the last 11 years specifically were really challenging. If you can go back to the beginning of those 11 years to the version of you that was then, and you can tell her one thing now, what would that
Mm.
be?
I would say continue with love because I'm a very loving being. Continue with love, but hold healthy boundaries. Understand your boundaries. Do not self-sacrifice for others to change. As it,
Yeah,
love yourself first is
yeah,
use that love first on yourself.
beautiful. And to anyone listening that feels like there might be in a dark moment or their dark moment is lasting a little bit longer than they would like, and
Hmm.
they're thinking, I've had enough darkness and I'm ready for the light to flood in, but they're still in it, and you could say one thing to them, what would that be?
Find pockets of joy. Find even small 5 minutes, something that brings you peace and joy. You might have 90% of your day, which is painful, and it will take time to get through it. I don't know the timeline, but those pockets of joy are healing parts of you that you don't even know need healing. Laughter being a huge one. I have laughed so much in these 5 years that I think I have in the past 20 years. I have made sure that I have held on to joyful seconds in my day and made sure that that's part of every single day, no matter how dark it is.
Yeah, beautiful. And the last question is, if your two boys were listening to this podcast episode 20 years from now as grown men, what
Yeah.
would you want them to hear?
That the beauty of who they are and the souls that they are have actually given me strength to carry on. And I thank them for that. I thank them for being their their most authentic selves because kids are kids and they're not being anything else, and seeing them grow and flourish and being the vibrant personalities that they are has made me fall in love with life again. So they've given me life again.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for sharing everything you have. I feel like we can keep this conversation going. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for listening. That's it from my side. Is there anything, final words you'd like to share, a question you'd like to ask, something you'd like to put out there before we close?
Just thank you so much for this opportunity to have this wonderful conversation. It's been incredible getting to know you, and it's been a privilege developing our friendship because I love how you give people space to be vulnerable and introspective. And I would say to anyone listening, that vulnerability is a power. Owning your story is powerful and it makes you who you are. Everyone's got a story, no matter how big or small they feel it is. Own it because you've got something to share. And empowerment is not just about ourselves, it's about empowering others. Once you've got that empowerment, empower others. That's how we spread it. So I would encourage everyone to continue their own empowerment journey to then be able to empower others.
Thank you so much. That's your Instagram handle, right? Empowered by
Yeah.
Priya.
Empowered by
Empowering. Powered
yeah.
by Priya. Love that word. Thank you so much. Thank you, Priya, for being with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for being part of this journey. Super, super grateful. Please share something you heard that was valuable to you with a friend. Please tag us along the way. Empowered by Priya at Dalgrunga, the IFS coach. Share your feedback, your comments, whatever it may be. We'd love to hear from you. Please have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.